Good evening, everyone, and sir. I hope you are doing well. On behalf of IEEE HIT Student Branch, I warmly welcome each one of you to today's invited Tech Talk on future of wireless communication. My name is Satvik Dhara. Currently, I'm serving as the chairperson of IEEE HIT Student Branch, and it is my pleasure to be your host for today's session. Today's world is more connected than ever before, from smartphone to IoT devices to autonomous vehicles and satellite communication. Wireless technologies are everywhere. As we move beyond 5G toward the future generations, our communication networks understanding this advancement has become increasingly important for every engineering student. So it is my great privilege to introduce our speaker today, Professor Dr. Mohamad Yusoff Alias. Professor Alias is an executive committee member of IEEE Malaysia section, and he has served as a chair of IEEE Malaysia, ComSoc and VTS joint chapter also. And right now he is the counselor of IEEE Multimedia University and he is professor of Multimedia University also. With years of experience in wireless communications, intelligent networking, and emerging communication technologies, he has made significant contributions to both our academia and IEEE community. And without taking not much of your valuable time, sir, I would like to invite Professor Dr. Mohamad Yusuf Alias to deliver today's session. Thank you, Professor, once again for joining us. And the stage is now yours, sir.
Okay, thank you, Satwik, I think. Is that right? Did I
Yes, yes.
pronounce your name right? Satwik
Uh,
Dara?
my name is Satvik, sir.
Yeah, okay.
Welcome,
All
sir.
right, thank you so much. First of all, I would like to thank the Haldia Institute of Technology, HIT IEEE Student Branch, for inviting me as part of this virtual speaker bureau program. I'm also wishing everyone a very good evening. I know it's a Friday evening, so it is something like that. I'm sure you're looking forward to the weekends and can't wait to go for the weekend and right after class and so on. So hopefully, I'm not going to bore you a lot with a lot of facts and so on. Just to give a little bit of sharing on what the future of wireless communication will be like. So if you do have any questions, you either can ask at the end or you can raise your hand and ask questions throughout the session, or you can even type in the chat box. I can see the chat box there. I can read the questions in the chat box if you have any questions in the end. And hopefully, this sharing session will be something useful. I believe most of you are either undergraduate students or postgraduate students, but you will be facing this type of dilemma or this type of projects in the future later on. Before I start, as mentioned by Satvik just now, my name is Yusoff, Prof. Dr. Mohamad Yusoff Alias from the Faculty of AI and Engineering. Um, Satvik has introduced me a bit about myself, but I'll just introduce a bit more. I obtained my Bachelor of Science in Engineering, Electrical Engineering from University of Michigan, Ann Arbor, United States in May 1998. I think most of you were not even born yet during that time. And then I joined Multimedia University after I graduated since 1998. So this will be my this coming September will be my 28th year with the university. So it has been a while at the university myself. So I did my PhD at the University of Southampton and graduated with my PhD in 2004. And currently, I'm not only a professor at the faculty, I'm also the counselor of the IEEE MMU student branch. And I'm also holding a position as one of the executive committee for the IEEE Malaysia section, and I'm in charge of the educational activities. I'm also holding a position as the Director of Research Management since last year, October. So at the moment, I'm holding quite, I'm quite busy with a lot of administrative positions. My research area actually covers the field of wireless communication. So that's why the topic that we're talking today is really related to what I have been doing since the past 20 plus years. So I've seen the development from 2G at that time. From the time that I graduated, it was only 2G. Now people are using 5G. And then people are already talking about 6G and onwards. So this is what we're going to be looking at. Just a bit about my university. Actually, I'm also not, I don't know much about HIT, but I think you are located in West Bengal, right? So it's about 3.5 hours away from Malaysia. Our university is a small university. Actually, Multimedia University is a private university. It's the first private university in Malaysia. We don't have that many private universities. So we were one of the first private university that was established in 1996. So this is actually our 30th year. Um, so it's not that old, it's quite new if you compare to some of the other universities. We have two campuses, one in Cyberjaya and the other one is in Malacca. And we have only about roughly about 18,000 students. I think you have more students in you probably have a lot more students in your university. So, and among this 18,000, there are about 2,300 international students coming from 84 countries. And we do have students coming from India as well, especially for postgraduate studies like masters and PhD. We have 10 faculties, 10 different faculties. And as mentioned at the beginning, I'm actually from one of the faculties that is called Faculty of AI and Engineering. So this is not that new. Actually, previously we were known as Faculty of Engineering, but starting from last year, we were rebranded to become a Faculty of AI and Engineering so that we offer a few programs that is related to AI. And since our university is not that big, so we only have about 1,400 plus staff, and half of them were academics, right? And from 1998, we already have about 80,000 alumni, and most of them got their jobs within the first 6 months. So 98% of them actually got jobs after 6 months of graduation. So that's a bit about my university. And we also conduct a lot of research. So under research, these are the faculties that I mentioned. There are 10 faculties using AI and IT, management, law, applied communication, creative multimedia, as well as cinematic arts. And in terms of research, there are 7 centers of excellence combining 800 plus researchers from the academia. So you can imagine I have to handle all these 800 plus researchers because I'm in charge of the research management. And I myself is actually one of the researchers. So my research again is in mostly in wireless communication. So you can see in the red box there. So this is my Center of Excellence for Intelligent Network. And in particular, my research center is actually for wireless technology. So that's why even later on, you will see that communication is actually wide. If you look at telecommunication itself, there's a lot of things that you can venture into. Since I think most of you are engineering students or IT students, you will see that there are a lot of things in communication that you can do in the future as well. So this is only one of the centers out of the 7 centers that we have. Okay, now to the serious part, right? Back to the topic that we're going to talk about. So that was a bit about my university, just to introduce where I'm coming from, right? So if you look around you, if you look at your daily life, for example, from the time that you wake up until the time that you sleep, you see that communication has become an essential part of your daily life. You look at yourself and you look at the phone that you are using. 20 years ago, phone was just basically being used to communicate with people, right? Just to make up calls, to talk to other people, and so on. But phone right now, your mobile phone is more than just a device to talk to other people. So phone has become an essential part of our daily life. If you remember during the COVID-19 time, phone has become an essential part for communication for classes. For example, people are having online classes. People are having online tutors. And right after COVID, right now, people are still using online classes. And you can see that, for example, like what we're doing right now, we are talking like miles apart, but we can talk to each other. Although I've never seen you, you've never met me, and we can still be within the same talk or the same session at the same time, although we are like 3.5 hours apart. And to tell you the truth, even last year I had a talk with, I've given the same talk to another student branch in Africa. So that was like even like 12, almost 10 hours or 12 hours apart, right? So communications has become more than just sending voices, so or exchanging voices. So it's nowadays it is becoming like, for example, when you need directions, you use your phone for GPS purposes. Like, for example, applications like Google Map, you can use Waze, for example, to find places, right? In the old days, you have to read the maps and you have to know and understand all the symbols on the map. But nowadays, there's no need for that because you can use your phone. You can use your phone, just find the location that you want to go to, and that phone will tell you, oh, turn left, turn right, and so on. They will tell you the directions. So it makes our life a lot more easier, right, compared to maybe 10 or 20 years ago, right? And people are, nowadays it's normal to work away from home, to work away from the office, for example, because of the price of oil that is increasing. Right? Again, I use the example of COVID. Last time, because of COVID, people had to work from home. And nowadays, the trend has continued, right, even after COVID. And because of the crisis in the Middle East, oil prices is going up. So a lot of countries have started to implement work from anywhere or work from home to make sure that we reduce the use of fuel, for example. So, and this is all made possible because of communications. And even in our daily retails, yeah, when we go to shops, yeah, I'm not sure how it is in India, but I think it is the same globally that people start to use QR code. People, and now your phone is no longer just a device to talk or device to communicate, but it's becoming your wallet because this is an important part of your daily life. Without it, you cannot even purchase anything, right? And there's a lot of shops that goes cashless nowadays where they don't even accept cash anymore. So you can use either cards or you can use your phones. Yeah, all these e-wallets and so on. So phone has become more than just communication device. It becomes an essential part of your daily life. People can't live without it, right? So I think if I ask everybody, it's like you have to have your phone. If you don't have your phone, you feel like something is missing, right? So phone, the communication itself, what is behind the phone is not just the device, but how it is communicating, how is data being transmitted, how the messages being sent out. So that is the essential part. That is the part that makes it more possible to have all this all these elements that you have in your communications, right? So when we talk about communications in general, you can divide your communications into two different types. The first type is a wired type, right? So if you look at wired, well, basically, if you look at cables, right, you have to join all the cables around. I don't have any device to show you. So you have to have cables to connect between devices. So this is called wired, right? And the other part of communication will be wireless. So the opposite of wired is wireless. So the wireless device, the word wireless. So there is no wire, less wire. So that's why it's called wireless, right? So wireless devices is where it replaces the cables, replaces all the what we call the transmission lines and the waveguides that carries the information. You replace this with radio. So the way that the data is being transmitted or the information being transmitted You no longer need cables. You no longer need that channel, that particular pipe to send out the information, but you need radio to transmit the data. So that's how wireless communication works, right? So if you look around you, there are many different types of wireless communication. Even right now, I'm using a wireless microphone, right? So there is no need to have a cable, or there is no need to wire up my microphone to the laptop. I can be free from cables, right? You have your phones, yeah, and I think you have your earphones, you have your earbuds, and so on. So all these are getting more and more, right? So there are actually different types of wireless communication technologies. You can divide the wireless communication technologies into different types. We will talk about that later. But before we go into much deeper into the wireless, if you look back at the history, where does it all started? Right? When does the wireless communication actually start? Right? If you go back all the way to the ancient times, yeah, if you look back into the history books, or if you watch movies, for example, if you look at ancient times, you see that people were using, like, for example, smoke signals. People were sending information using pigeons, and so on. And these are all wireless. There's no cable tying to the pigeons, or there is no cable in the smoke signal, right? So it's called wireless. But these are all ancient types of wireless communications. So if you go forward to the more modern era, the wireless modern communication started when Samuel Morse created the coded transmission. If you watch some of the movies like Titanic and so on, you will see that people are using what we call Morse code. There's a long shot. That is called Morse code. So these Morse code were transmitted, right? And so it was created by Samuel Morse to become like a special code that replaced the alphabets. So it replaced with the short and long codes to represent the A, B, C, D, E until Z, right? So this code were taken as part of the special code, and it was treated as a standard. Then in 1876, after Alexander Graham Bell started the telephone, invented the telephone, then only came the radio part. So the first radio transmission were transmitted by a guy called Marconi. I'm sure you have heard of the name Marconi, because Marconi now used to become like a very important brand for telecommunication network. So Guglielmo Marconi, he's an Italian, but he worked on the radio part in Isle of Wight, which is a southern part of the United Kingdom, southern part of England. So he was the first person that did a radio transmission from an island called Isle of Wight, that's a bit south of England, south of Southampton. So from that Isle of Wight to a boat which is about 18 miles apart. So he used all these theories. I'm sure you have learned about Hertz, about Maxwell theories, and so on. I know not everybody likes Maxwell theories and Hertz theories because of the equations and so on. But from the theories, these are the ones that give idea to Marconi to demonstrate that a message can be sent out using radios, right? So from there on, right, things have become more complicated, or it has been more advanced. People have started to use radio, like radio broadcasting, radio walkie-talkies, and so on. And the technology become more advanced because of the war. Although we think war is, well, of course, war is not good, but because of the war, the fighting, what do you call it, countries, or the enemies, they wanted something more sophisticated for their team or for their army itself. So they started to come up with a lot of radio systems. Even as we talk about today, right, the one that we use in the public were actually used in the military like 20 or 30 years ago. So normally military has a much more advanced type of technology compared to the one that is used in the public, right? So there is a bit of history of wireless. Yeah. So from the Second World War, after the Second World War, back in 1945, so a lot of these technologies that were used in the war or during the war had started to be employed or started to be used by the public. So that's where the telephone goes to the public, the radio communication, radio broadcasting, TV broadcasting, and so on, started to develop right after the World War II in 1945. So if you look at wireless communication, you can actually divide the wireless communication into different types. As I mentioned earlier, there are many different types of wireless communications, right? So we can split it based on the range that the communication can goes to. So it can be divided into a small area called the wireless personal area network. So this is around about 10 meters or so. So it's called personal area network, where it is focusing on your own small area. So that's what it's called, personal area network. So as we go bigger into a bigger area, so this is called the wireless local area network or wireless LAN. So this is maybe about 100 meters or something, right? A 100-meter radius. That is wireless local area network. And if you go even bigger, like for example, if it covers the whole country or it covers the whole state, then we call this a wireless wide area network, right? So this one, we will look into details in each of this one, but basically each one is divided based on the size of the area that it is covering. So a personal area network is normally a short range, right? Where again, it is around 10 meters or so, where the wireless local area network is slightly longer. So it's not shorter than the personal area network. So it's about 100 meters radius. And if you go much bigger, maybe a few kilometers area, then this is called a wireless wide area network. So what are these networks representing? So let's zoom in further into wireless personal area network. What are the examples of wireless personal area network? So wireless personal area network, as I explained, was actually for a short range. So the best example around you is your Bluetooth. So Bluetooth is now a very popular. There are some others like Zigbee, infrared, and so on. But Bluetooth has become the tag or the specialty of wireless personal area network because it has become a very popular type of technology that is being used. For example, you have your headphones, even your mobile phones are equipped with Bluetooth, your laptops are all equipped with Bluetooth, and many more devices are equipped with Bluetooth. So among the most popular ones will be Bluetooth. So Bluetooth is not new also. It has been around since 1999, right? When I first graduated, there was no Bluetooth. Then Bluetooth came in about 1999 by a group, it's a special interest group called the Bluetooth group. And even after 27 years or 26 years, right, Bluetooth is still being used. It has evolved, although it has evolved, it's still become like one of the most important short range type of communications. And you can see nowadays people are using their hands-free. People, when you jog, for example, you have your earphones. You see, I think most students actually will have their Bluetooth headsets and so on. You have Bluetooth microphones. You can also have much bigger devices that use Bluetooth, like printers, scanners, and so on. So Bluetooth has become a typical type of short-range communication, right? And it has evolved from Bluetooth version 1. And nowadays, if you buy any devices, it will say it's Bluetooth 5 or Bluetooth version 5, right? So it's already evolved from the beginning up till today, and it's still popular, although after 26 years, after the 27 years, It seems like none or no other short range communication can actually take over Bluetooth. Right? It becomes so popular that most of our devices are actually using Bluetooth. So other than Bluetooth, there are also some other short range communication. For example, right, the RFID or the radio frequency identification. Nowadays, if you look at shops, right? They put the RFID inside their shops. You can even have like cards, which is that can be read by the RFID devices. You have like special tags with RFID chips and so on, right? So RFID is also a short range, is a radio frequency identification where it can be passive or it can be active type of RFID. So a passive type of RFID doesn't even need a battery. You just need a small, that's why it can, they can actually put it, I have a sample, but I forgot to bring it with me. You can actually even find it in, for example, in shops, they even put in dresses or when they sell things like nowadays are filled up with RFID chips. Slightly similar to RFID is called near field communication, or NFC. And most phones are equipped with NFC where you can actually read your cards. Right? For example, if you go to hotels, there is the card that you use for your door are all using NFC types of technology. Right? So these are all short range type of communication. So it's only about 10 meters, and mostly are actually being used, with very close range kind of thing. So if you go slightly bigger, it is called a wireless local area network instead of wireless personal area network. Now it's called a wireless local area network. So what is this wireless local area network of wireless LAN? Well, of course, the most popular word or the most popular name that you probably are used to is Wi-Fi. So Wi-Fi is actually a commercial name, right? Is a short name for wireless fidelity. So it's called Wi-Fi. Yeah. But Wi-Fi is only a trademark. So if you notice there's a trademark there. So it's a commercial name for wireless local area network. In wireless local area network, the most popular technology is from IEEE. It's called IEEE 802.11. So IEEE is a non-profit organization, so they don't sell all these technologies. So what is going the one that is going to adopt this IEEE 802.11 is a consortium. It's actually called WPA, and then this consortium is the one that come up. Hey, what's a popular name? If you call it, well, I want to connect to wireless LAN, so it doesn't sound so nice, or it doesn't sound so good. So that's why they come up with a much more commercial name, much more popular name. It's called Wi-Fi. And Wi-Fi is very popular where when you want to connect, you go to hotels, you go to shops, coffee shops. If you go to even the stalls, they actually have like free Wi-Fi and so on, right? So Wi-Fi has also evolved. It started again, if you look at the timing, it started in 1999, where it's the same year that Bluetooth also actually started. So at the beginning, they call it based on the evolution started with IEEE 802.11b and A, and then it goes on to become the AG, and then once they finish the A to Z, then they started with AC, AX, and BE. But now they say that, oh, okay, I don't want to give it it's very difficult to remember IEEE 802.11a or 11b. So they started to rename it to become like Wi-Fi 1, Wi-Fi 2, and now it's already Wi-Fi 7. So Wi-Fi 7 is already available in the market, where Wi-Fi 7, of course, it is much more, there are more data that you can transmit. The transmission rate is 3 times higher than compared to the Wi-Fi 6E. So it can go up to even, I think, in terms of gigabits per second. right? So in Wi-Fi 6, you can already go up to about 10 gigabits per second. Wi-Fi 7, Wi-Fi 6E and 7 can go up to 23 gigabits per second. And now research is already ongoing for Wi-Fi 8, which can go even up to 1 terabits per second, right? So that's how much data is going to increase that can be transmitted using Wi-Fi. So you can see the evolution is there, and people have been using Wi-Fi. So now sometimes it's difficult to live with the Wi-Fi. When you go to shops, say, do you have Wi-Fi? Do you have Wi-Fi? So you keep asking whether there is Wi-Fi or not. So 25 years of evolution become faster, the speeds become faster, the number of users can be fast, there will be more number of users that can be supported, and of course there are more applications that can be using Wi-Fi. For example, people are talking about AR, VR, and so on, right? So another technology you might probably have heard about this, that runs slightly similar to Wi-Fi, is called Li-Fi. It's light fidelity. Actually, Li-Fi is based on a technology that is called visible light communication. So instead of using radio, it's using the normal light that you see from that is coming from your light, your lamp, right? So these are the ones that is going to be transmitting data. And especially when we're using a lot of LED lights nowadays. So LED can transmit based on the number of blinking, right? So the data will be based on blinking. Of course, our human eye would not notice because the blink happens so fast that you doesn't even you won't notice anything at all. So Li-Fi is a technology that was started by someone from Scotland. Right? I forgot his name, but he's the one that started this technology and even have a startup company that is looking into this particular technology. So this is also coming, but it's a bit slow because light is not as easy as radio. Since light, actually, you will get a lot of interference coming from the normal sunlights or other lamps as well that can be interfering with the transmission. Yeah. So that is on wireless local area network. So if you go even bigger, then that cover the whole country or the whole state. So this is called wireless wide area network. So wireless wide area network is huge. It can cover your whole country. I know India is like one of the largest country in the world, and it can cover the whole country with this particular technology. So an example of this is your mobile phone. So mobile phone is categorized as wireless wide area network because you can use the same phone and the same connection in a much bigger area. And with roaming, you can even go from one country to another country without having to change phone, without having even to change your phone number anymore. So that is a wireless wide area network. Another type of wireless wide area network that is also popular is the satellite communication. And we will talk a bit about satellite communication as well. So let's first look at the mobile network technology. So if you look at the evolution, earlier on we talked about the evolution of Bluetooth from 1999 up till today. We also have seen the evolution of Wi-Fi that started in 1999 up till today as well. That even mobile communication actually goes even further. Mobile communication comes up first before Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. So mobile network, actually the history of mobile goes even back to the after World War, as I explained to you about the history just now. After World War, the technology even becomes faster as more and more people are racing towards coming up with new things that can help out the humankind. So mobile technology actually started in the 1960s, 70s, but they were not standardized, meaning some companies have come up with their own proprietary types of technology that is quite costly because it is only produced by individual companies. So in 1980, there was one standard that came out, actually a few standards that came out. So this is considered as the first generation mobile, right, in 1980s. So the beginning of this 1980s, there were a few types of standard. In Europe, they were using different standard. Even in different countries in Europe, they were using different standard. In the United States, of course, they want to use their own standard. In Japan, they have their own standard and so on. But the common thing about the first generation mobile is that it's using analog. Yeah. And as we know, analog is very noisy, it's very difficult to filter, there's a lot of limitations, right? Then came the second generation. So it's going from analog to digital. So digitalization actually moved the first generation to the second generation. And as we need more, as the internet comes out and started to boom, the mobile communication also evolved to become something that not only carry voice, because at the beginning in the 1G, the first generation, the second generation, the main business or the main purpose of a phone is to talk, yeah, to communicate or to send out voice or to transfer voice signals. But after 1990s, when the internet started to boom and it became popular, then people are not using mobile phone to transmit voice only anymore. It become also for data. So that's where the third generation comes in to support the data and the voice. But after a while, people don't use voice anymore, right? Even we have applications that can transmit voice over IP, such as WhatsApp voice and so on. So the voice part has become less and less significant. So people are more using data compared to the voice. So that's where now in the 4G and the fifth generation, there is no longer that support the circuit switch that is for voice, is only supporting the packet switch, which is mainly for data. So what happened to voice? Voice also now is moving towards packet based. So that's why you have VoIP, and voice over IP and so on. And in 4G, they even have voltage or voice over LTE, right? In 5G, there will be always also something similar to voice over IP, right? Which is following the voltage in 4G. So let's look at an example. I'm sure in India, India is also one of the countries that have implemented 5G, right? So just to show the comparison between 4G and 5G, so you can see what makes 5G is much better compared to 4G. So these two phones, one on the left is running on 4G and one on the right is running 5G. So the fingers actually were my fingers that you see there. This is the experiment that I run in my home, right? You can see it's the same phone. Both are using Samsung phone. One is running on 4G and the other one is running on 5G. So you can see the download speed of 4G is only 72.8 megabits per second, but the download speed for 5G can go even up to 586 megabits per second. But this is not even, this was last year or a few years back, yeah, when they first started 5G. So nowadays, they even have like 5G advanced, which can even go much higher than 586. Even the upload speed is also different. So the upload speed for 4G is only about 6.14 megabits, megabits per second. But in the upload speed for 5G can go up to 74.4. That is about 10 times more compared to what it can be done in 4G, right? So of course, some people may say, so what, right? Let's look at a real-time example. So have you guys played Roblox? Are you guys familiar with Roblox, right? My kids love Roblox. So this is just an example that I normally use to show to kids, like, okay, you see the speed of 4G and 5G. So you can see on the left, and again, the left is 4G and the right one is 5G. So you can see that, okay, 5G is almost completed. 4G is still downloading. So 5G is almost, it's already installed and you can start to play, right? Where else in 4G is still downloading, right? So that's how fast the 5G is compared to 4G. So you can see the speed in 5G is much faster compared to what it is in 4G. So what this means, yeah, so we are moving forward. We're not going to go back to the 2G, 3G anymore. We are moving forward. So although 5G is something that is still new in certain countries, in certain places, even in Malaysia itself, although it has been introduced almost 6, 7 years since 2019, 2020, right? But the adoption rate is still low, right? Not many people will feel like, oh, what's so important about 5G when you can get everything in 4G. But one thing that we have to remember, the technology that is introduced now is not mainly to be used today or to be used tomorrow, right? So you look at an example of 4G. 4G was introduced at the beginning of 2010, 2011. Now, after about 16 years, then only it become like mostly used by the common people. So it takes time for technology to be adopted. So that's why mostly when we do research, when we introduce a new technology, is not necessarily to be used today, but it's actually for the future. So when we say that, oh, why do we need to go into research into 6G when 5G is still not that many adoption? Because we're not thinking 6G for today, but 6G is expected to be out in 2030, right? 6G is going to be introduced in 2030, and it's supposed to be used from 2030 to 2040. That means even at the end of 2040, 6G will still be introduced, be used. Although by 2040, definitely they will come up with 7G already, right? So that's why the technologies for 5G, 6G is not to be used today, but to be used in the future. And if you look at the trend of the usage of communication, you can see that more and more people are subscribing to mobile broadband. So the yellow color here is the subscription to mobile broadband. And you look at the gray color on top, that is the mobile cellular telephone subscription. And the number of mobile cellular subscription is more than 100%. This is 100 per 100 inhabitants, meaning there are more mobile subscriptions compared to people, right? So in Malaysia, for example, we only have 32 million population, about 32, 34 million population. But do you know that we actually have close to 50 million subscriptions? That means for every one person in Malaysia, they might have like 1.5 to 2 mobile subscription. So they can have 2 SIM cards. And that is not impossible because most of the phones that we're using today, it can be using 2 SIM cards or even can be using eSIM. So there are more and more subscriptions compared to the number of human beings on the road. So what is 6G? Why do we need to discuss 6G? So although 6G is still not there, but if you look into the research in 6G, it's already a hot topic. It's already ongoing. People are looking at 6G similar like a huge brain. So this is where AI will come into play, right? And you will see that ICT will become something like very, very important. So 4G and 5G that we are using today has started to address most of the challenges that we need. But you have to remember that this is only the beginning because there are more and more technologies that are coming out. For example, the 6G that we're talking about is not only looking at the one on the land, but also to the air. So instead of what we call two-dimensional, looking at just X and Y, it's also going to look into the vertical, which is the Z, right? So what is the part that is going to play? Like if you look over here, so the future in the vertical is going into space. So it's talking about the flying objects like drones and so on, but it's also looking at satellite, right? So there are also issues that people are looking at beyond 5G. For example, they're talking about the environment, they're talking about the sustainability and also the society impacts, right? So in 6G, there will be more use cases instead of just the normal cases that we have, like instead of just enhanced broadband, instead of just the, what do you call that, uh, multiple machine types of communication. You were talking about space connectivity, smart infrastructure, UAVs, industrial automation, remote healthcare, and so on in the 6G era, right? So why do we need a new generation of mobile? Don't we have enough, right? Actually, there will be new services, new applications, new use cases, right? So that's why we need 6G. And 6G are looking at the much higher data rate, 1 terabits per second. Wi-Fi is already there, but mobile is catching up, right? The experience, the delay will be shorter and so on, right? So you look at the KPI, you look at the expectation for 6G is very, very high. So that's why a lot of research will have to be looking into the improvement of things in 6G, right? So one of the most important element in 6G is satellite communications. And I believe India is one of the most advanced and one of the advanced countries that have their own satellite launching, their own rocket launch and so on that can send satellite into space, right? So satellite is one of the main one technologies that will play a main role in the 6G network. And why is it like that? Is because when you look at the advantage of satellite, it can reach into an area where cables cannot be entering or where the normal mobile communications cannot enter. For example, remote islands or in deep jungles or on the mountains and so on. So that is the advantage of satellite. But however, right, the disadvantage of satellite is at the moment is quite costly. So in order to send satellite into space, you need a lot of money and the government will need to invest a lot in this, right? But satellite have, there are few also technologies that inside the satellite communication. You probably will be looking at this for your final year project, or maybe you can look into if you want to continue your project in your master's or PhD. For example, there are free space optics or FSO, the tremendously high frequency THF. People are already talking about terahertz, right? Instead of gigahertz, people are looking at terahertz, very close to the light frequency of light. So it's almost towards the frequency of light. And you probably have heard about Internet of Things, where the devices are going to communicate, or D2D, where device can communicate to another device, right? An example that you probably are very familiar with is Starlink, right? If you look at Starlink, like you look at Elon Musk, when he first introduced and said that he want to send satellite into space, he want to even send people into space, people were laughing at him. But I think people are not laughing at him now, because as he launched his, he have his own launcher, rocket launcher, that reduced the price to launch rocket because he can send it on his own, right? And he can send like hundreds of satellites into space, into orbit. And in the long term, he's planning for about 30,000 satellites in space, where the internet can be communicating using satellite. Even right now, they already offered some services. Another satellite that you probably have been using all your day in your daily life is the GPS, right? So GPS is using a group of satellites on its own, right? Of course, there are different types of GPS system, positioning system, like China has their own, Europe also have their own, and US GPS is actually the US based positioning system. So they are using multiple satellites that are transmitting data to your phone, and it can actually locate based on, there's a certain technology called triangularization. So if you need more details in there, it's not enough for this 1 hour. So you can read more about that. So the future is space exploration, right? So yeah, people are talking about, if you look at NASA webpage or NASA Facebook, for example, you will read a lot about NASA trying to find a new home, right? And the next Earth, for example. So although it looks futuristic, but in terms of communication wise, the only way that you can communicate when you go into space is by using wireless, by using radio. So this is where the wireless technology is becoming important. Another one of technology that I already mentioned in the satellite is what is called free space optic. So free space optic is a communication between satellites or inter-satellite link, and is using laser to communicate with each other. Of course, on Earth surface, you cannot use laser or else somebody will get killed. So in space, they have the way to communicate between satellites using laser, right? So there are many other technologies. I'll try to skip some of this. I'm not going to talk more on this part. There are many like AR, VR, IoT, AI, and so on, big data, cloud that is supporting the. So this is more special technology. But I will touch a bit about AI. So everyone is talking about AI. So AI is also playing an important part in communication, not just chat gpt or gemini or claude that we are using nowadays, but the AI that we're talking about is the machine learning, the where you can actually predict, for example, the application wise or the radio transmission and so on. So AI can also plays an important role in communications, where it can be used to optimize the resources that we have, right? One of the negative or one of the setbacks of wireless communication is that compared to wired, where you have a dedicated channel or a direct line, in wireless, you cannot do that because you are using air as the medium. So the signal will go everywhere. So this is one of the disadvantage of wireless communication. That's why if you look at the fiber optic transmission, compared to the normal wireless communication, fiber optic can transfer a large amount of data with a higher accuracy compared to the wireless communication, right? Another topic that is also gaining a lot of interest is called energy harvesting or wireless energy harvesting. So what does it do with the radio signals that is transmitting out or in? You have a lot of radio signals. Of course, you cannot see it because it's invisible. If you can actually get that radio signals and convert that into energy. So some research has been ongoing on this. Rather than wasting the radio signals, you can actually charge your phone with your radio signals, for example, right? This has already been used in the RFID that we talked earlier on. For example, if you look at your RFID card or RFID tag, there is no battery in that. It's called passive RFID. So where does the RFID getting the power from? It's getting from the radio signals of the access point. So the access point or the transmitter will send the radio signals, and these radio signals will generate the electrical signal inside the RFID card. So that is already a form of energy harvesting, right? So another technology that is using wireless is called vehicle to everything or V2X, right? The X here, it's not X-Men, right? So the X here is talking about everything. So it can be vehicle to vehicle, it's a V2V, or vehicle to infrastructure V2I, or it can be vehicle to pedestrian V2P, and so on, right? So, all right, I think it's about time, right? It's almost 1 hour, but I think we're going to open up for Q&A in a short while. So as a conclusion, I would like to conclude my talk tonight. There are a lot of new vehicle wireless technologies coming and many opportunities to be enhanced and improved. So your choice to become an engineer is a good choice. Now, of course, I would recommend engineering because I'm also from engineering, right? So because the future is there, right? And people, if you look around you, there are many types of wireless technologies that is popular and that is becoming more and more useful every day, right? Of course, the direction of most of these technologies is towards enhancing the environment and sustainability, looking at the ESG, the environment, social, and governance of it, right? So I think that's all from me tonight or this evening, right? Just don't want to stop you from going for your dinner, right? Okay, so let me open up for maybe if you have any questions.
Uh, Sir,
Let me
I
see
have
if I can find the chat box.
said there are no questions in the chat box right now. We have gathered some questions
Ah, okay.
from the students. We'll ask them soon. But right now, I have some questions that I want to ask you. Uh, at
Okay,
first,
sure.
the first question like that. Like Malaysia has several major telecom operations, like companies such as Telecom Digital, Maxis Telecoms, and ES, etc. How do you see those operators preparing for the next generation, like transformation for the next generation, like 5G to 6G? You already have mentioned that we can achieve 6G by 2030. How they are preparing for that? There are some security measures also.
Okay, thank you, Satwik, for the question. If you look at Malaysia, is a bit funny because we don't have that many our population size is not as big as in India, but we have about five telcos. If you want, if you believe it or not, we have five telcos that serve 32 million people. So everybody is trying to get the piece of cake from everybody else. So if looking at the preparation, another thing that is different um, for the implementation of 5G in Malaysia is that we have what is called a single wholesale network, where the network for 5G is controlled by the government. There's one company called Digital National Berhad that is a government company, and this is the only company that owns 5G. So the other telcos will have to subscribe to the Digital National Berhad. So they don't have their own infrastructure. So they become like only a provider. So they don't have their own infrastructure. It's totally different in 4G, where they actually develop their own infrastructure. They invest in their own infrastructure for 4G. So if you look at how they were going to prepare for 6G, if you ask me, they were not sure yet. Because if it is a single wholesale again, that means they will not be able to invest in new technologies, in the new 6G network and so on, because it will be done only by the government. So I think right now they're in a stage of wait and see, right? Another thing, if you notice in the telco business, is that when you go from one generation to another generation, it involves a huge amount of investment. And this is investment involved not only the base stations, you also involve the data center, the central site or the core network itself, and so on. So it involves a lot of money. So most of the time, they will wait first. They will wait and see, and it will take some time before they actually adopt the new technology. So this is the trend in Malaysia. So we normally take a bit of time to actually adopt a new technology. As compared to countries like Europe, or if you go to Korea, for example, or if you go to US, the adoption rate for new technology is much higher. So that's why they started the 5G back in Korea, in some parts of Europe, and even in the US. They started in 2019, but we were a bit slower. We only started in 2020. So it's more like wait and see type of thing. So hopefully that answers your question, Satwik.
Yes, sir. I have three more questions. That is, you have mentioned Starlink. What technical advancement Starlink gave us for the telecommunication industry or communication industry?
Sorry, I don't get your question.
I asked that you have mentioned Elon Musk Starlink. Okay, what technological advancement that gave us for communication industry?
For Starlink, is it?
Yes.
Using Starlink. Um, I cannot comment so much on Starlink. There is a pros and cons of actually having Starlink. For example, in certain countries, they don't allow Starlink to go in because they don't want to destroy the local industry, right? Even in Malaysia, when they wanted to come in, there was a bit of um, what do you call it, protest by the local telcos because it will actually kill up some of the local businesses, right? Because the advantage of satellite is that you can go into any parts of the country without having to build like large infrastructure or very expensive infrastructure. So you need the Starlink receiver, the satellite receiver. You just put it there, then you connect to your local Wi-Fi, and the whole house will be connected to Wi-Fi with a speed of about 200 megabits per second.
Sir, that answers my question.
Okay.
Uh, and one more question that is, many of our participants are here are undergraduate students. What skills do you think you recommend them to start a career in communication technologies, like any telecommunication operators or satellite communication technologies? What skills they should start on?
Okay. What kind of skills that you need, right? So
Yes.
if I can conclude if I can summarize your question. I know you're very worried because you're still a few years to finish your degree and you're not sure where to go, right? Actually, do not worry because communication engineer is one of the most looked after or the most sought after in the market. You're not, of course, people are talking about IT graduates or data center or programmers and so on, right? But communication is a very important part. And you can go in many areas. You can, as I showed you, you can go into satellite communication, you can go into policy and regulation, you can go into security, for example. You can go into mobile communication, you can go into broadcasting, you can go into a fixed network. Even data centers nowadays require people with a communication background because you cannot have a data center that is not communicated or it's not networked. So you need a network engineer. So what kind of skills that is required? So if you have the chance, go and get certifications. Like for example, you can go like Cisco network. Well, Cisco is a bit outdated, but you can go and try like ZTE, Huawei. They have certification programs. Even nowadays, they have a lot of online programs that you can go and get yourself certified. So with the additional certifications, it's more than just a degree that you got. So you got extra. If you got the time, why not? And you don't have to go anywhere. You can stay in India. You can go and join like some of the programs even in the US. I know, like for example, there are a lot of free programs that they offer that give you certifications, and especially for students. And they can even if they charge, they have charged like very minimal for students. So go and get yourself additional skills with certifications. So these certifications can help you out in your career because it makes you more outstanding compared to those just with a normal degree. That what I would advise you to do. So you got a lot of times. Don't complain about your times because I think as a student, I still remember my student time. I wish I can go back as a student because once you start working, you will feel that you don't have the time of the world, and you will see that well during your student time you have more time for yourself. So you can spend that wisely And I would, as I suggested, you can go online with trying to find that online certification programs.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Mm.
I think
Okay.
that's resolve our question, and that's all the questions from our side. Now, as
Okay.
that TikTok comes to an end, thank you very much, Professor, for that fruitfully insightful and engaging session. On behalf of IEEE
Okay.
HIT student branch, I would like to express our sincere gratitude to you for taking the time to share your valuable knowledge and experiences with us. Your presentation on the future of wireless communications has provided us with a deeper understanding of the emerging technologies. I am confident that everyone who attends today's session has gained valuable insights and inspiration from your expertise. And as a token of our appreciation, we would like to present you with the certificate of appreciation in recognition of your valuable contribution. Let me share that certificate.
Thank you so much.
Okay, Professor, this is a digital preview of your certificate. We'll send the original certificate of appreciation to your email shortly after today's session. And once again, thank you for your time, your support, and for inspiring our student community. We sincerely hope to have the opportunity to welcome you again for a future IEEE HIT student branch tech talks or events. To all the participants, thank you for joining us and making the session a success. We hope to see you at our upcoming IEEE events. And with that, we conclude today's technical talk. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, sir.
You have a good weekend, everyone. Bye bye.
Bye bye, sir. Good night. Have a good night, sir.
Yeah. Thank you.